the memory, and what it was, she had been abused or molested by the family doctor.
Whoa.
But she had buried this. Now, some of this stuff can be buried and it's not an issue. But we all know that sexual abuse can really create some aberrant behavior in someone.
Sure.
So that's a good example of that child entering the school system.
Now, you were able to tell this by how many fives were in this
No,
person's
the challenge comes out of the birth date.
date?
Numerology, the process for calculation is always addition, except when it comes to the challenge, then it's subtraction. So there's 4 challenges in life: the first, the second, the third, and the lifetime challenge. Real quickly, the first challenge comes out of subtracting the month and day of your birth. Whichever number is higher, matters not. You subtract those 2 numbers.
In other words, like my birth is 7/10, so I
Right,
would.
so you have a 6 challenge in the first position.
What did you subtract?
7 and 1.
Oh, 7 and 1.
Right.
Oh, because 10 boils down to 1.
Correct. In numerology, you always go to a single digit.
Right.
Unless you get to the master numbers of 11 and 22. That's another part of the discussion.
Right.
But it's always single digit. So you have a 6 challenge in the first 2 positions, actually. Now, a 6 challenge, one of the things it can be representative of is codependency. It can be an indication of divorce, either in your personal life or perhaps in your family of origin. It can also be an indication of other types of abuse: physical, mental, emotional, or verbal.
That I have been.
Now this is going to be personal, but in your home life, again, I don't know how.
My home life, like growing up with my
Yeah.
parents, my sister,
Yeah.
there wasn't really any abuse or anything.
And did your parents stay married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They stayed there. My father
And were
passed.
you divorced or were you married
I was
and
divorced, yes.
Okay.
I'm a divorced woman, yes.
Okay. And at what age?
Let me see, I divorced, I was, wait a minute now. In 1995 was the divorce, so I was,
So 44,
yeah.
which
something like
fits
that.
right into that time frame.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So that's, again, it's there. Now, I believe, again, that you picked your name and your birth date. So rather than lament these things that may have happened, understand that it was part of your script. You started to grow.
Right.
You started to expand who you were. So,
I know that in the before time, we do make our plans for the life that we're going into.
Exactly.
Including our name and who's going to be our parents and siblings and friends and enemies even.
Right. And numerology helps you better understand that choice that you made before you were conscious of who you are. That's why, again, this is where I work to empower you. Understand, this is a part of who you decided you were going to be, who your soul decided you were going to be before you got here. So rather than going through life being a victim to something that may have happened, to a condition that may exist, embrace the fact that you asked for it to be there.
Yeah, there's a reason for everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you can work and approach your life from that standpoint, it changes everything.
And sometimes it's difficult, though. Like I'm having a difficult time, like as I was explaining before when you asked me how I got involved with having the show and all that. And I talked to you about Frank, my friend who passed away. And that was in the script, I guess it was meant that I had to do some heavy grieving and things like that to, I guess, maybe grow or...
Right, and was he also the person that got you into this?
He was the person that got me into this.
Okay, so one of the ego mind has a tendency to over-dramatize things because the ego mind likes to be the center of its own little universe. But we need to understand that we're all here for a purpose or many purposes. People come and go. And sometimes it's that person that comes along, and however long you may have known Frank, but he opened a door for you.
Yeah.
And put you onto a different path.
A path I wouldn't have probably been on if not for him.
Right. What did you do before you did this?
for this? Well, in addition to this, I've held different jobs and worked. Frank and I also co-founded and ran an animal advocacy organization.
Okay.
For 8 years, we saved a lot of animals, I'm sure. We got them, found them new homes, got them spayed and neutered so they wouldn't be producing unwanted animals and things like that. And we did that very, very much for about 8 years.
Okay, because you have a 6 life path.
Yes.
A 6 life path is a lifetime of service to others.
Yeah, I've been told that, even my chart.
A 6 is a teacher, it's a counselor, it's a healthcare worker, it's a food service worker. It's people who their driving force is to be of service for others. Now, your image number, that number that comes out of the consonants for you, is also a 6. So one of the things that you have to deal with in your life is you have a tendency to attract people with problems.
Tell me about it.
Whether it's in this group here or anywhere you are the person that people will innately turn to and say, Christine, can I talk to you? I'm having trouble with my boyfriend, my husband, my girlfriend, my wife. You attract it like flies to honey. Now, that's all well and good, but the caution with that 6 energy is that you must learn to be sure that that is reciprocated for you in your life.
How so?
Let's take this glass of water and view it as loving and caring and doing for others. Now, if we slowly dump this water out
Right.
without it being replenished, eventually you're going to have an empty cup, an empty vessel. So if you are consistently giving to others, if people are forever beating a path to your door, asking you for your help and your assistance, if there is not someone or something in your life that is giving that back to you, you're going to feel very drained, you're going to feel resentful, you're going to be frustrated, and you'll eventually get angry about it. So it's very important for you, Christine, to do 2 things. One, make sure that there is some flow coming back.
Right.
And secondly, you must learn to set boundaries.
Say no when I can't do something.
Right. And even if you can, if it's too much trouble at that moment, you have to learn to say no. And this applies to anyone.
Right.
If you don't set boundaries in your own life, people will walk
all over you. Right.
And your expression number is a 2 in your chart. So not only are you a person that people see as someone that they can unload their troubles on, but they also see you as the problem solver and the mediator. Because there's a very strong part of you that has a great ability to hear and listen to both sides of the story. And take that information from the 2 different parties and render a fair and just decision.
I should have been a judge.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And for you, it's a 20 over a 2, so this is a transitional lifetime for you on the level of partnership and working in concert and understanding the dualities of life. Okay, so a great deal of who you are, besides serving others, is about understanding the yin and yang of things, the light and the dark, whatever phrases you want to put that into. Okay? Excuse me. You have a 5 soul urge. You also have 7 5s in the spelling of your name.
Yeah, I was going to ask
You
about.
get bored easily?
Do I get? Yeah, I can get bored. Yeah.
Do you rearrange the furniture a lot?
Well, I don't have a lot of places to rearrange things too.
Do you have a lot of unfinished projects?
Yeah, I do. But
5 is a very, very curious number. 5 is a number that gets bored very easily.
Yeah.
Now, I believe, right now in the educational system, we seem to have this epidemic of people who are ADD.
Yeah, right.
Or ADHD.
Yeah.
We're about the same age. That didn't even exist when I was in school.
Yeah, it's true.
And I have done this numerous times now, where a parent will be talking to me and they'll be telling me, my kid's starting to act up, this and that. And I'll do the chart and I'll say, don't be surprised if you get a note or a call from the school telling you that your child is ADD.
Whoa.
Why? Because of that 5 energy. Again, 5s are very curious. They're also very quick-witted and quick-minded. They pick things up very quickly. We know how the educational system works. They start a lesson on Monday. They end it on Friday. Well, what happens if little Johnny gets that lesson by Tuesday? What is he supposed to do for the remaining 3 days of that week?
Yeah.
He's going to get bored. He's going to be looking around. He's going to be doodling. He's going to be texting, looking out the window, throwing spitballs, whatever. He's going to become a distraction. And because the educational system today doesn't want to deal with problems, little Johnny gets sent down the office and then gets diagnosed as
With
ADD.
ADD.
And my advice is always to the parents, you make sure that you tell that teacher to keep your child occupied, to give him things and projects that hold his interest and satiate his curiosity. You won't have a problem with ADD. And again, I've done it numerous times with parents, and they've come back to me and said, you know, I did what you said, and it was no longer a problem.
Sure. They're ready to really give it the label ADD and then
Right.
put the poor child on drugs,
Exactly.
hard drugs,
Right.
you know, and we didn't need that.
No, at all.
No.
At all. So again, that 5 soul urge for you, there's a real curiosity for you about life and about the world. May not necessarily be real good for you in relationships, because 5s have a difficult time committing. Because they kind of, and I know because I have a 5 soul urge also, you kind of keep one foot in a relationship and the other foot somewhat on the frame of the door, just in case you got to get out, or just in case something else piques your curiosity or grabs your attention, because 5s have a great appreciation for beauty. So they are very easily distracted. So for a 5 soul urge to be in a relationship, it needs to be a relationship that excites and holds interest on every level. It cannot be the same old, because we'll bail, and we'll bail very quickly, because I don't have time to be bored like that.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. And again, 5s have a tendency to start a lot of projects without ever finishing them.
Yeah.
The prototypical 5 has, you know, there's a project over there, and then something else catches their attention, and they move on to something else, and then they move on to something else.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right about that. The only thing is, though, lately, though, I have been forcing myself, because for the sake of clearing out clutter and accomplishing what making my abode the way I want it.
Right.
There's certain things that have to be done, and I have to do them.
Right.
And so I have been working on it.
Right. And it's very important for a 5 to learn focus and to learn balance. Again, rather than do a million things that you get bored with, find those things that really, really grab hold of you that you could do day in and day out. I was a chef for a long time. I was in the food service industry. I consistently changed my menus. I was forever rearranging the dining room and redecorating, because I would get bored with it after a while. And the restaurant industry gave me a great deal of latitude in which to express that changeability. But ever since I discovered numerology, this is what I wanted to do. It took me 27 years to finally get here. But now that I'm doing it, I don't think I'll be changing occupations again.
Yeah.
So going back to the challenges, the 7 challenge. 7 challenge in the first position can be an indication of a number of things. One, a sense of isolation or loneliness for the individual. It can also be an indication of something in education. More often than not is that they're very bright and they may not exactly fit in to the educational environment. And the most dramatic conditions of a 7 is addictive behaviors. If you have a 7 challenge in the first position, very strong possibility that you come out of a home where gambling, alcoholism, drugs, whatever, are part of the package.
So that's the 7 challenge.
Correct. So the caution there is to, one, understand that it's a part of your environment. So you need to be especially diligent that you don't fall into that addictive trap. And, work to rise above it, because you will have problems.
Yeah.
Okay. The 8 challenge has a lot to do with learning to own your personal power and your personal authority. Okay. That we all are powerful individuals. Most of us have gone through life with people telling us that we don't have any power, whether it's government or religion or education, whatever the case may be. A lot about the way we live our lives is very disempowering, because we're always told that there's some external force, there's some external power out there that controls who we and what we are. So it's about understanding that you as an entity have a great deal of personal power, and you need to step into it. The other thing within 8 challenges that can be a very strong indication of someone who has an extreme case of anger or rage. If it's in the first position, they came out of a very angry household. Give you a good example of that. That young man who did that horrific shooting in Tucson, where the congressman got shot.
Oh, yes.
I searched online and I found his name and his birth date. And he had an 8 challenge in the first position and a 7 challenge in the second position. And what I saw there was, A, that this was a very angry man who came out of a very angry environment. And it was very hidden and very deep-seated. This was the proverbial 10 pounds of poop in a 5-pound bag, waiting for the explosion.
Well, I imagine that a lot of these people that we hear about in the news that do things like this are probably in that position somehow.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I forever, when I see someone in the news, if I can get their full name and birth date, I do a chart on them, because I want to better understand, whether it's a celebrity or, Charlie Sheen's been in the news.
I know.
Part of poor Charlie's problem is Charlie Sheen is not his name. His real name is Carlos Erwin Estevez.
That's right. Emilio Estevez is his brother.
Right.
And now if the name was good enough for him, right?
Right. Well, the father's name was Estevez also. So he took the father's, the name that the father took. And Hollywood is a great example for the aberrations that come out of name changes.
Yeah, they have to have a stage name.
Yes, and so what do you have? You have someone pretending to be someone who they're not.
Right.
In a job where they're pretending to be someone else.
Right.
And again, that's why I'm such a strong advocate of be you, be the you are through your birthday. And when you get grounded in yourself, you want to change your name, knock yourself out. But until that point in time, learn to embrace who you are. And this applies especially to women, because you're the gender that gets to change your name when you get married.
That's true.
And many women get married very young. They haven't even discovered and locked into who they are yet. And they've now gotten married
else.
And taken on a different identity.
Yeah.
And I equate name changes to Halloween. You dress up as Wonder Woman on Halloween. Externally, everyone sees you as Wonder Woman, but underneath that costume is you, Christine.
Right.
And when you take that costume off, Christine is still there. And even if you keep that costume on, Christine is still there. And that's the same thing with name changes. You start to layer vibration, and then you start to get what is known as intrapersonal conflict. You quite honestly don't know who you are. I have a very dear friend of mine, passed away a couple of years ago. Through the course of her life, when I met her, she was on her 5th name.
5th name? She hadn't been married that many times?
No, her mother had changed the family name.
Oh, no.
She didn't like her first name, so she never used it. Then she got married. And so she had all these different names. And this was a brilliantly talented, beautiful, creative person. But she was like a live wire. And she could never ground herself. And I used to tell her all the time, Erin, you need to go back to your birth name and get grounded here so you can then move forward. So that happens with women with name changes. Again, all of a sudden, there's somebody else.
Well, let me tell you, now, my name, Christine Schiavone, is my birth name, my maiden name. But legally, I still can use my former married name because my Social Security, my driver's license, all those important things are still under my former married name.
Right.
Now, does that make me confused or mixed up? Or
It can create some duality,
Yeah.
without a doubt. That's why I advocate to women, if you're going to get married, keep your maiden name.
yeah,
Because first of all, the custom of taking the male's name goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. And it was used so the man could tell the village that you were his property, just like his cows and his goats and everything else. And secondly, if you are married and you're going to get a divorce, take your name back in your divorce.
yeah.
Especially today, because it is so difficult to do a name change.
Well,
today.
in my divorce, it says she may use her maiden name.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm using it.
Yeah, I strongly advocate again that women do take their birth name back because they will be able to reclaim themselves.
Well, more or less I have,
Yeah.
I guess, except that it's just not official in the papers,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
but, you know, stuff like that.
So, you know, again, you need to be careful.
But I imagine that somebody who gets different names all the time probably is a very confused person.
Exactly, because again, you get to the point that they quite honestly don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I had an instance about 15 years ago or so. A woman I knew was a counselor in a school, and she told me this story of this young girl who had been an excellent, straight-A, honor roll student, never a problem. Mom got divorced. And then mom met a new guy and got remarried. And when she got remarried, the guy adopted the kids.
So I gave him his name.
Right. And all of a sudden, this girl started acting up. Now, I know the psychologists are going to say, well, of course, because of the trauma of the divorce. But what happened is the young girl said, okay, well, if I'm going to change my name, I want to pick my name. And she picked a name that was all master numbers. Now, master numbers in numerology are the numbers 11, 22, 33, 44, 55. They're higher callings. My belief is that master numbers, you volunteered to come here and do that particular task. You were equipped on a subconscious level to handle that energy. Because master numbers that are not exercised at the high level reduce to the worst conditions of the low. And it really becomes an issue. And this young girl inadvertently chose a name that was all master numbers and put herself into an energy that she was under no circumstances equipped to handle. So it took her, you know, it really threw her for a loop. It threw the whole family for a loop. But again, I looked at that and said, okay, well, here's part of the problem here.
Well, now, what in a name would bring about master numbers?
Well, again, the numbers 11, 22, 33, 44. It depends on how they total up.
Oh, I see.
Okay? So you could have a master number as any one of the four major numbers. If it's in your life path, it's extremely important that you do that work, that you do that spiritual work. Because an 11, which is an inspirational teacher, an intuitive teacher, it's very important for them to get out there and inspire people and teach people about spirituality and metaphysics and all of that. If that number is not exercised there, it reduces to the worst condition of a 2, and they become a doormat. People in their lives will walk all over them repeatedly.
Interesting. For the last few minutes of the show, why don't you explain to our audience how they can come up with their own numbers? Well, you kind of explained it already, but showing them the chart, say somebody's name is Mary, and you would say like M would be a...
M is a 4.
Is a 4.
A is a 1.
Right.
R is a 9.
Right.
Y is a 7.
Right. So if somebody wants to sit there and write down 1 through 9, and then the letters that correspond in 3
Right.
rows, and you can
And what you would
print
do
out your
is,
name.
right, and if when you're doing a chart, you write it out, leave yourself enough room on the paper to do the calculation. The soul urge number gets written across the top. In my book, in the back, there's a whole bunch of blank charts
Oh, okay.
that they can just fill in. And again, the book can be gotten through Amazon or through Barnes and
Noble.
Nobles.
Yes.
And something about the Y, if we remember grammar, English class, Y, the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y.
Y, yeah.
In the 27 years I've been working with numerology, Y is always a vowel.
Oh, yeah?
But because the letter itself has a duality, if you have Y's in the spelling of your name, there's going to be a bit of duality about you in your personality.
Well, I don't have any Y's.
No. But there's plenty of people out there that
I'm
do.
sure. There's probably people that have more than one.
Right. Now, if people want to contact me, they can, again, Google me if they want to book me for a reading or a lecture. If you want me to come and do a speaking engagement, I love to speak to groups, and again, I'm really looking for the educators. I do have a psychologist who's a client of mine who now wants me to work with her.
All right, well, all they have to do is Google Michael John Fierro, or they can send me an email too.
Right.
My email address is at the end of the show, and I'll get in touch with you, naturally. And this has been a very interesting conversation.
Thank
You have given out a lot of good information, and I'm sure that our audience has been very, very interested in hearing what you had to say. I
Thank you
found
very
it
much.
very interesting because it affects all of us.
Exactly.
If you have a name, you got numbers.
Right, and you are your name. Do not forget that. You are your name.
Okay, and with that note, we're going to say thank you everyone for watching, and have a good night.
Thank you.